Hi, my name is Carl Reed. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for the Open Geospatial Consortium, and I've been dealing with issues related to interoperability and data sharing for probably close to 15 years. The OGC's primary focus is on dealing with issues related to interoperability, not just for data sharing, but also for services and everything else related to what we need to do in the geospatial domain to share our information broadly and easily. There are many different types of interoperability. The OGC deals with what we call technical interoperability, which is defining standards and technical methodologies and best practices for sharing data and services. But there are other types of interoperability which are much more difficult to solve and actually are the major impediments to the sharing of geospatial data right now. And these are things like legal interoperability, institutional interoperability, and cultural interoperability. Until those three areas of interoperability are addressed in a common and consistent manner, it's going to be extremely difficult in many cases for the sharing of geospatial data. For example, legal interoperability means that we have the contracts in place and the legal mechanisms for sharing of data, especially in time of need. For example, every jurisdiction has different legal requirements for how they share information. Unless those organizations get together and talk about the contracts necessary to be in place to share data, say in the time of an emergency, it is very difficult to share the geospatial data. Another example is institutional interoperability. How do different organizations work together, not just legally, but as institutions, and how do their cultures also address the issues related to interoperability? Because as we know, every institution has a different internal culture, and that culture has a lot to do with how that organization wishes to share geospatial content. So at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is policy. And until institutions get together and collaborate and resolve the legal issues and the data sharing issues, the whole area of data sharing becomes rather difficult at times. Now within the OGC, we have a group, it's called Geospatial Rights Management. And rights management is about defining mechanisms for expressing policies of how you share geospatial data. Now we can, from a technical perspective, talk about frameworks for sharing geospatial data. We can talk about rights management. We can talk about licensing and pricing, but we only do it from a standards perspective and how you communicate that information. So until organizations can work together and work with us to define the policies that need to be encoded in a policy framework, again, it's going to be very difficult to share geospatial content. So at the end of the day, then, what we need are more organizations to step up and define their policies in a very broad context within a legal framework for how they wish to share data. And this gets really interesting when you're dealing with private sector, government sector, multiple government jurisdictions, because they all have different views. So it's going to take a lot of communication and a lot of work to deal with the other aspects of interoperability beyond defining standards. So thanks for the time to talk with everybody. GeoWeb's a great conference. The workshops are going well. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.